This show is presented by the 323 Network. You can watch all your favorite 323 friends and shows on the 323 Network YouTube channel, follow us on all social media platforms at 323Reid, and support us as we continue to grow at patreon.com/323Reid. That's 323REID. The Super Bowl is here, and it's time to get hyped.
Oh, Joe, that ain't good enough. Come on, Joe. Thank you, baby. Thank you. You making blood come from my damn mouth. That's what I'm talking about, baby. You gotta make blood come to the mouth. You can't just smack me and don't hit me hard. That's bullshit. When you hit a motherfucker, you hit that motherfucker. Let's kick their ass, motherfucker. Kick their ass. Let's go. Yeah!
But do you need a little help translating the universal language known as football?
Pie de Cody Parking. 43 yardas. El snap. Le mete el pie. Distancia, dirección. Le dio el poste. ¡No! ¡Falló! ¡Oh! ¡No, señor! ¡No, señor! ¡No, señor! ¡No, señor! ¡No, señor! ¡No, señor! ¡Los Eagles se van con la victoria! ¡Ay, papá! ¡No, señor! ¡No, señor! ¡Chicago! ¡Chicago!
A game that'll make you go from this.
We're going to kick you in the teeth, all right? And when you punch us back, we're going to smile at you. And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off, all right? And we're going to stand up. And then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down, all right? And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap, and we're going to get up. And then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
To this.
When you see your players give all that they have and you lose that way, it's tough. You know, you don't want that for them. So, but we'll be better for it, you know.
Well, forget analysts like Michael Irvin.
Oh my God, this is what's wrong with today. The young ladies today, they're not learning from mom how to cook. We're losing recipes, and now we're going to lose Peyton Manning's knowledge.
Or the Manning brothers.
Let's go to Peyton. He's going to break down that touchdown. Can't hear shit. Never mind.
When you can have analysis like this. That's where go argue with Dylan on the YouTube chats. It's shit week, everybody.
Oh, the flag that came up for Dylan.
Yeah. Look, that's what Dylan does. That's all Dylan deserves.
We might actually know where they play.
And the Kelce's. I'm tired of Jason and Travis Kelce blowing up my damn TikTok feed.
I would rather have Zach Wilson.
Oh, Zach got him.
Well, perfect timing.
Was like, shut up.
How to at the 323.
Shit.
So,
I need that fidget with.
Only on the 323. I'm your host, Reid Murphy, welcoming you to 5 epic days of our best contributors, analysis, and shenanigans, leading you to the big game. 5 days that can only be known as
Super Week.
Yeah.
I know it's super weak. We got just a plethora. That's right, folks. My IQ is not as average as you might have thought. I know some big words. Plethora of shows going on this week. But Reid, this is college shame day.
Oh my God.
We don't talk NBA here. We don't talk NFL here. Well, we will talk NFL here. But not right now. Yeah. Not right now. That's right, folks. Welcome to College Shame Day, the podcast that gets you caught up with all things college football. I am your host, not you. I am your host, Scott Ellia, and today we have an action-packed episode for you. It made sense. Me and Reid were talking about, Scott, do you want to release your season finale episode, last week, like right after the games had ended? I was like, you know what, Reid? Let's save it for Super Week. Let's send off season 2 with a bang during the busiest time for post-production that we have here at the 323. So we're going to break down that Ohio State's thrilling national championship victory. And also, since it is Super Week, we got some super performances, shocking upsets rather. And then also we're going to look into the NFL with some Super Bowl rookies that are going to be hitting the field. And then also, Reid, I'm going to give you a couple names of rookies that could end up being impactful next season and next Super Bowl. That's right. I'm planting my flag now, February 2nd, 2025, on these players, and maybe the teams that end up drafting them. I guess I'll call my shot with that one too. I think last year, Reid, for Super Week, didn't I go do a whole mock draft?
Yeah, we did an entire mock draft. That was one of our longest shows.
That took a lot of energy, and just sucked the soul right out of me.
We should have had I'm trying because I just heard you talk about sucking the soul out of you. There we go.
Now go.
I'm in control of the board this time. But we should have had somebody we should have, like how we live streamed the NFL draft, we should have had somebody else live streaming our mock draft.
That would be great.
Or us doing
that would be great.
We would re-record it and then we would watch it.
I would. You know what? We'll talk about that after the show because I have a couple ideas swirling in my brain right now. But first up, folks, the national championship recap of Ohio State defeating Notre Dame 34-23. Ohio State is your 2024 national champion. Defeating Notre Dame 34-23, the Buckeyes captured their 6th national title, and this one's a little extra sweet from them as it's their first in about a decade. A clutch 56-yard pass from quarterback Will Howard to wide receiver Jeremiah Smith late in the fourth quarter sealed the deal and stopping Notre Dame's fierce rally. Let's break this one down a little bit more, though. Ohio State had a tough and difficult journey to get to where they got to at the end of the road. After a 13-10 loss to Michigan just 7 weeks before the championship, many were questioning Coach Ryan Day's future, but in the face of adversity, Ryan Day's squad pulled through and delivered one of the most dominant postseason runs we've seen in recent memory. For you, Reid, what does this victory mean for Ryan Day's legacy? I mean, is this a definitive moment for him as a coach in Ohio State history, or is it just still, hey, it's still Ryan Day?
Can it be a little bit of both? Can it be a little bit of both there? Because I think it's where, obviously, this is huge for any coach and great for your legacy no matter what, but we've seen what the patience level is for not only fan bases, but for, these athletic boards and stuff, where, sure, somebody's going to win the championship. Look at LSU and Ed Orgeron and all that, and the success that they had, and boom, he's gone within, 2 years? 2-3 years? Obviously, there was a little bit of controversy there around him, too, but, if he won 2 chips... If he won 2 chips, I bet they would have argued a little bit more. And
you bring up Ed Orgeron. The New Orleans Saints still don't have a head coach, correct? They could pull the funniest thing.
He's somewhere
and just bring in Coach O as a head coach to come in. I mean, he saw Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly's back in the NFL now.
Oh God, yeah. So that's a curious thing too, because this is big for Ryan Day, but I think it's still, like, the pressure's not really going to ease up that much, especially if Ohio State if they were to underperform a little bit next year. Imagine they just lose to Michigan again next year.
They will.
The shit will just hit him again. And all of that will come out again. And if they, flame out in the playoffs, obviously he'll be safe next year. I think a championship buys you a year no matter what. Yeah. But Ohio State's a huge program. It's a huge legacy school. They're going to want him to repeat this. If he can get a second one, boom, yeah, your legacy's, you're all of a sudden you'll be thought of in the same light as Urban Meyer, and you can step out of his shadow officially. But I still think nothing really has changed that much. You've just bought yourself a little more time and a little more leeway. Do you think that Chip Kelly leaving is going to impact them too much?
No, and I think this goes back to the whole Ryan Day legacy, right? Like you said, this championship definitely bought him an extra year, but Ohio State is such a storied program that everyone there is like, okay, do it again, run it back.
Right.
Let's see what you can do. Let's see you can do it again. Mm-hmm. But I don't see this really affecting them because even who else just left for Penn State? Their defensive coordinator, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he just left for Penn State, of all people, staying in the Big Ten and playing them. But I think this speaks more to the roster that they've built there in Columbus. I mean, it's very difficult to lose with the amount of talent that you have on that roster from top to bottom. I mean, let's talk about real quick Ohio State's transfer portal acquisitions. I mean, I think that played a massive role in not only the season, but especially in this win. I mean, Will Howard, a transfer from Kansas State, he threw for 230 plus yards, 2 touchdowns. And then running back Quinyon Judkins, who transferred from Mississippi, rushed for 100 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, their transfers showed just how pivotal the portal has become in college football. And you're not going to stop seeing that. I mean, Reid, with the success that we've seen from transfer portal players like Howard and Judkins, do you think the future of college football will be dominated by teams that excel in the portal? I mean, who was it that just came out? It was it what I can't remember who the head coach was, but now it's just a bidding market. So it's like now whoever's in the transfer portal is just who goes to the highest bidder. Like this is the new way, right, for college football.
Oh, 100%. And that's why you see coaches leave. That's why you're seeing a lot of the old guard leave, and you're seeing coaches like Nick Saban complain about it, like they didn't, because a lot of these big programs used to be able to dominate the way that they could, i.e. Alabama, because they had the money, they had the resources to do this shit under the table better than anybody else could. Now, anybody can compete. So you're right. I don't think it's going to be any of the big schools that are just going to dominate this now, but whoever can utilize and manipulate the transfer portal best, that's who, and NIL, that's who's going to dominate completely. And yeah, you see places like Oklahoma has done surprisingly well from what I was seeing in the transfer portal and with NIL deals. I wouldn't be shocked to see Oklahoma all of a sudden start to make, take a couple steps back into the right light. And Colorado, if they could get priorities straight, Colorado could start to make more and more moves. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of these teams, and it's those and just legacy schools that, can get the same kinds of guys over and over, i.e. BYU, who are just going to get a particular, you got an athletic Mormon, he's going to BYU or Utah, he's going to one of the two. And you got Samoans, yeah, those big boys that are coming out of the BYU. So
it's your bread and butter, man.
That's what you're going to see take over, and it's just going to get more and more crazy too, right? Until they get a commissioner,
right? Until
there's a college football commissioner, like people have suggested Nick Saban for, to kind of oversee the NIL madness and oversee the transfer portal madness. And I still like your idea of moving the transfer portal to post bowl season, so you're not getting shitty like Pro Bowl level games every college bowl.
Yeah, I mean, I think that speaks to not only just the transfer portal, but I mean, we're seeing it even in the NFL with coaching acquisitions too. Yeah. I think everything that's going to affect the next season, coaching changes, kids in the transfer portal, potential free agents, blah 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 blah. That needs to wait until 12:01 the next day after the national championship. Everything's at a full stop. And if you're caught tampering or there's collusion afoot or something shady's going on, there needs to be very, very strict, very just detrimental ramifications for that to happen. I think that's really the only way to go around it. But there needs to be a standardization for all this transfer portal madness. But I don't want to move away from the championship game, at least giving a little bit of a highlight to Notre Dame. I mean, Notre Dame's late rally made things interesting late throw. I mean, they were trailing 31-7. They scored 2 touchdowns and conversions to make it within a 1-score game. But like I said, that Ohio State offense with some help with that clutch pass to Jeremiah Smith was able to close it out. On the whole, Ohio State outgained Notre Dame 440 plus to 300. I mean, Howard was flawless to start, completing his first 13 passes. Ohio State only punted once in the game, which shows just how dominant they were offensively. I mean, this just goes to show you this win not only means a national title for Ohio State, but also secures Ryan Day's place. I don't say amongst the greats of Ohio State's coaching history just yet, because, yeah, he did get a national title, like Urban Meyer, Jim Tressel, some cornerstones of that Ohio State program. But I just think Ryan Day he needs another one. He needs another one before he gets thrown into that conversation.
I'll be that Stugatz. I'll be that Stugatz here. Do it. All right, do it 2 times. Do it 10 times. I'll admit I was wrong. I was wrong this time. Do it again.
Where's Lou Holtz right now? Is there a wellness check on Lou Holtz?
Oh my God, there was nothing funnier there in that championship than watching the Pat McAfee sideline thing and with their fake Lou Holtz meeting Scott Van Pelt's Lou Holtz.
Oh my God,
just talking at the same time over the game.
Did you see Pat McAfee's Lou Holtz when he interrupted the interview with Ryan Day and Marcus Freeman?
Oh yeah, that was yeah.
That was so funny. But hey, 2024-2025 and college football season is officially in the books. Championships all said and done. We can finally take a breath. But I felt with Super Week, it's important to go back and look back at the past season for things that are super. Because you got the Super Bowl for you in the NFL, but some super performances, some super upsets, some super games of the year. So next up, let's just take a look at some super performances that lit up the season and a few of those super upsets. I mean, Ashton Jeanty of Boise State in Week 1 against Oregon State. Jeanty rushed for a staggering 267 yards and 6 touchdowns, setting a new school record for rushing touchdowns in a single game. And then we just saw how much he just went off for the rest of the year. He just did not slow down. Following that up, Travis Hunter of Colorado. I can't believe I'm saying this, but this might be the last time I ever have to mention his name on this show ever again, which I can't. I'm just so ecstatic for. I mean, in the regular season finale against Utah, Hunter had 10 receptions for 110 yards and 3 touchdowns on offense, while also recording an interception on defense, an all-around superstar performance, which I feel was what kind of pushed him over the edge to getting that Heisman Trophy this season. I mean, we already talked about him as well earlier on. Jeremiah Smith, wide receiver there from Ohio State in college football playoff semifinal against Alabama. Smith set a Big Ten record with 15 receptions, 210 yards, and 3 touchdowns, a massive contribution to Ohio State's success this season. But we can't forget about the little engine that could with Arizona State and primarily Cam Scatterbo. I mean, unstoppable in that college football playoff quarterfinal game against Texas, rushing for 185 yards, 2 touchdowns, plus 75 receiving yards and a touchdown, despite Arizona State's heartbreaking double overtime loss. And to round it all out, Ricky Hunt of Ohio. Who? Ricky Hunt of Ohio, that's who, tied an NCAA bowl record with 5 total touchdowns, 4 rushing, 1 receiving in the Myrtle Beach Bowl against Georgia Southern. Of those 5, Reid, that I named, which of those performances stood out to you the most? And who do you think will carry their momentum into next season, whether it's in the college football world with Jeremiah Smith or in the NFL, Ashton Jeanty, Travis Hunter, maybe Cam Scatterbo? Who knows if he gets drafted? Maybe he will. He will. He'll be a 4th, 5th round flyer. Yeah. But are any of those names that you kind of stood out to you the most?
Cam, just going on what you said with Cam Scatterbo, like he is going to get drafted, and I've seen like some Commanders fans try to mock him. He doesn't have that NFL speed. It was awesome to see what he did there, at Arizona State, but like, it's not gonna translate that well. It's gonna be a little Peyton Hillis-ish. But of those names, I want to say Ashton Jeanty, right? We've been loving Ashton Jeanty this whole time, but Jeremiah Smith is really fun. And I think he's going to continue to build a really great legacy going forward. And just look how young he is. He's just going to get better and better and better. So Jeremiah Smith for me is going to be the fun one to watch.
Yeah, I mean, especially looking forward to 2025 schedule for Ohio State. The actual schedules haven't been released yet, but the opponents have. And really, if you look at their slate of games, Texas, Penn State, maybe. Other than that, it's a whole bunch of nobody. Right. Grambling, Ohio, Washington might give you a scare. Wisconsin, you could be getting a scare there, especially since it's on the road there in Madison. But other than that, I mean, you go to Michigan. Is he going to drop 5 games to Michigan this year? Maybe. But no, I think you're right. I think it's those 2 names are the ones that stick out to me the most. Each for different reason. Ashton Jeanty, NFL, easily at this point 1st round pick, depending on where he's going to end up. I know a lot of mocks have him going to Dallas. Am I having a stroke? That was 2 fumbles in a row. A lot of mocks have Ashton, including mine, to Dallas. But I mean, I'd love to see him in some burgundy and gold. Just saying. I
personally would too.
I can tell you one person on this show that if that were to happen, that they would be on NFL.com's swag website as quickly as they possibly could to get an Ashton Jeanty jersey.
Oh, immediately. And he'd have the new jersey too. Everything.
Jeremiah Smith, I think he is one of my Heisman hopefuls going into next season, so I'm very interested to see, especially with that very player-friendly schedule they have for next year. But It wouldn't be college shame day. It wouldn't be college football without some wild upstates. I mean, week 2, Reid. This is where it all began. Week 2, Northern Illinois pulling off a huge surprise, taking down Notre Dame 16-14, despite being massive underdogs. I believe the line in that game. What was the line in that game? 28. I think Notre Dame was favored by 28. So that was a really great win for them. Fast forwarding to week 6, Vandy stunning Alabama with a win, 40-35. Alabama was favored by 22.5, with Vanderbilt shocked the world, scoring in every quarter of that game. Week 10, Georgia Tech upsetting Miami 28-23. That was your due game. Miami had a lot of squeakers last season that they should have dropped. Virginia Tech, most notably, to end the game there with a non-touchdown pass or touchdown reception by Virginia Tech. But Miami was even favored by 9.5 in that game. But Georgia Tech's defense just stepped up in a huge way. We already talked about this team for a little bit now. Ohio State dropping that season finale against Michigan, 20-17, where they were favored by 20.5. But I guess it didn't really matter. They still got the championship, so congrats.
Yeah, I guess so. Wait, I got you again.
Yeah, and the round out, a lot of these upsets, ones that stood out to me most notably, another Week 12 game, Stanford upsetting Louisville 38-35, despite Louisville being 21-point favorites. Of the upsets, which one surprised you the most? And do you think it impacted the teams really involved at the end of the day? Like the Alabama game, they don't drop that Vandy game. Do you think you finally see them squeaking into the playoffs if they don't drop that? I mean, Notre Dame got to the championship regardless as well, so...
The Alabama Vandy one is by far my favorite, just for all of the shit that just came out of it. The Alabama fans losing their minds on public radio was one of the funniest things I'd heard, and just like it would go on for minutes, and it was the worst thing that ever happened to them. But you're right, I do think like if they hadn't dropped that game to Vandy, they were an upset thrown out away from making the playoff. And, they wouldn't have had a case. If they had beat Vandy, that probably would have been like, it was like, well, yeah, okay, they're fine. They're the same old Alabama. But I think it gave you a little bit of a concerning look into the Nick Saban shadow disappeared really, really fast. And it just opened people's eyes. So that one was by far my favorite of the season.
Right. And I think, not even Alabama losing to Vandy. I didn't want to, twist the knife too much, but you got to remember that they did lose late in the season in Norman against Oklahoma.
And Alabama fans were all over our asses on TikTok. I don't know where they came from. I didn't even know they knew how to use a phone.
I didn't know Cricket Wireless got TikTok. Oops. And then before we get into some Super Bowl talk that I want to have with you, Reid, and kind of get your thoughts on these, a couple really exciting games that I found this year, excluding the college football playoff, because to me, I would say about 80% of the college football playoff games this year were exciting. From top to bottom. Yeah. I found enjoyment in all of them. But a couple regular season performances. Alabama over Georgia, 41-34. Huge win for Alabama thanks to Jalen Milroe's incredible performance where he threw 370-plus yards, ran for like a $115 and two tutties. So congrats there. But we can't let them forget that they lost to Vanderbilt 40-35. The first time that Vanderbilt's beat the number one team in 40 years.
Well,
Oops. Moving on to week 11, Arizona State's 28-23 win over BYU. I'm sorry, Reid. Highlighted by Cam Scadaboo's dominant performance and a bizarre finish after Arizona State's fans prematurely stormed the field. That was exciting to see. Moving on to another pair of week 12 games, the Auburn-Texas A&M fourth overtime thriller, 43-41. Auburn wins there. And then also week 12, the Georgia's 44-42 win over Georgia Tech is one of the longest overtime battles we've ever seen. Nate Frazier's historic run sealed the victory for the Georgia Bulldogs. I don't know if I'm missing any of the games here, but did any of those games kind of stand out to you, kind of similarly to those upsets that we just talked about?
Honestly, not as much as the upsets. It was a low-key season for me, to be quite honest.
The one that stands out to me the most is the Vandy over Alabama.
Vandy over Alabama, I'll take all. That's the game of the year. Just go ahead, give that.
You know what? Let's book it.
Give that the ESPY.
Game of the year. Game of the year. We.
Shut up,
But Reid, Before we get into Super Bowl talk, I do want to stop really quick and just thank everyone at home. Thank everyone at home for a wonderful season 2 of College Shame Day here. A year of growth, year of, just keep pushing the envelope with every week in and week out. I mean, just trying to find our little niche in the podcast universe. And thank you again, Reid, for giving a little white man here on February 2nd, the Black History Month, a platform to speak his mind.
It's literally in the Constitution to do so now, so you got it.
Let's go. Reid, it's the Super Bowl. We've made it. We finally made it to Super Bowl week. That's right, folks. And me and Reid were talking about things that I could potentially, provide you all at home looking forward to the Super Bowl. I'm a college football guy. I watch the NFL for shits and giggles. I mean, of course, all my teams lose. The Buccaneers. You're welcome again, Reid. The Seminoles, we lose there too this year. So it's just been a very just downtrodden year in the Ellia household. So there are a couple rookies that are looking to be very impactful this year. Super Bowl, Reid, looking ahead for Philadelphia, a pair of cornerbacks, Quinyon Mitchell, who I would like to remind you, I planted my flag on him months in advance of the NFL draft. And I would just like to be told that I'm right.
You were right.
Damn straight. In the postseason right now for Quinyon Mitchell, 11 tackles, 4 pass breakups in the postseason. And then on the other side, it wouldn't be Black History Month without talking about the blackest cornerback that Philly has, Cooper DeJean. I mean, you got to look at him on the other side, 15 tackles, 3 pass breakups. I mean, you're going to need people on the outside to really keep Patrick Mahomes at bay, and these two fellas look to be it in Philly. If you had to pick one or the other, starting now, to roll with your franchise, who are you taking? And there might be a right answer here.
It's tough because I want to say Cooper DeJean because he has had, personally for me has been a thorn because I remember in those games he's a tackling machine. He's a good pass breaker and just he's disruptive. But Quinyon Mitchell it's what you want with a corner. You don't ever want to hear about him unless that corner's getting interceptions and taking shit to the house constantly. If you don't hear a cornerback's name or you don't think about him, he's doing really well. He's doing his job great. So I know that Quinyon Mitchell has had just a stellar season as a lockdown corner. I think I would have to take Quinyon. I'd have to take the quiet future superstar over, the more the phenom, he's firework grit guy.
Right, gym rat.
Yeah, he's
lunch
a gym
pail
rat.
guy.
Lunch pail guy. First in, last one out.
First in, first out. First in, last out. No quiet quitting here for Cooper DeJean.
No.
But I mean, it's Philly better be thanking their stars that they have them on their defense because for Kansas City, rookie phenom wide receiver Xavier Worthy through the postseason, 2 games played, 11 receptions, 130 yards, and a touchdown. I see this being a very interesting matchup. I don't know who's going to line up against Xavier Worthy. I would assume it's going to be Quinyon. Because outside of Xavier Worthy and Travis Kelce, who else does Kansas City have? I mean, you have D-Hop, but D-Hop's been kind of quiet.
Yeah, you have D-Hop. Hollywood Brown will be playing, but yeah, I think Xavier Worthy is the one that he's the primary guy.
Right. Hey, it gives it a shot for no, because if Xavier Worthy has a great game, he wouldn't get the Super Bowl MVP. It would just go to fucking Patrick.
Yeah, they're
Mahomes.
just gonna get Mahomes. Yeah, what are we talking about? Get out of here.
The second rookie for Kansas City that I'll be watching fairly closely is going to be safety Jaden Hicks. Through the 2 games they've played in the postseason, totaling 9 tackles this season. I mean, another quiet guy out there. You don't really hear a lot out of him, but I mean, that, like you said, that's kind of what you want. You want someone who's going to go out there, do their job, hold it down that they need to, and especially going up against Philly's offense. I hope he's going to be loading the box because Saquon's coming, and he's not going to slow down. He's your last line of defense. So, Jaden, you have your work cut out for you this year. I will say that very much. Of the four, do you see any of these four potentially being, a rookie Super Bowl MVP?
It's going to be really hard for, your defensive play. It would be really hard for one of the defensive guys.
Take a couple interceptions, run back for a touchdown.
Which I could see, honestly, like we're just talking, if we're talking about somebody who's going to, could make a star impact in one game, I could see if the Eagles win, Cooper DeJean, if the Eagles win, they're going to have to stifle the Chiefs on defense. That's the only way that you beat the Chiefs is you play perfectly and you make them generate mistakes. Eagles defense is decent with that, and those two rookie corners are great about, especially Cooper, about taking over in that moment and being a ball hawk there. So I could see either him for the Eagles or the obvious one, Xavier Worthy, on Kansas City side if Worthy just pops off. And this is and like you said, it's pops off in a variety of ways. Maybe he does something on special teams. Maybe he does some little option plays and gets like a big 60-yard run. But he can't do it you can't do it from all throws from Mahomes because that MVP trophy will go over to Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, I don't want to do that. But what I want to do really quick with you, Reid, before we let all these fine. Do the 323 listeners have a name? Have we named them yet?
We haven't, actually. We haven't given them a name. This is an interesting, what a discovery we've made here.
Huh.
323s? No, it can't be threes.
We'll ask ChatGPT later.
Readers?
But before we let these fine...
Wait, I got it again. Oh no, where'd it go?
It's a...
But before we let these fine folks at home go off with the rest of their day, I want to talk to you really quick about 2026 Super Bowl. I know. We're still a week away from the 2025 Super Bowl. Scott, what the hell are you thinking? I'm not thinking. That's the issue. You leave me with two monitors and a supercomputer. I'm going to start jumping down rabbit holes. I mean, they're turning the frogs gay. What else do you want me to say? But I'm looking ahead to 2026. We just talked about four, rookies that are playing this year's Super Bowl that could have a huge impact. I want to look and see what potential rookies could come out next year and be just as impactful. And when I was looking at this, you could Cam Wards of the world, Ashton Genty, the Cowboys. I mean, you have some really great talent going towards the top half of the first round, but how many of those first round teams end up making the playoffs, let alone the Super Bowl the next year?
Yeah.
Not
right.
very many.
No.
I mean, this is where you're looking at the playoff teams where they're picking from, who's going to be around, maybe a second round pick later on in the draft. But I want to roll it out with the LA Chargers. The LA Chargers, I'm going to die on that hill, Reid. I'm going to say Chargers every year until it actually happens. But God damn it, 2026 is going to be the year. I feel they're going to address the wide receiver room this year in the draft. I really feel that Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State could be the guy that they get. I mean, in Ohio State this past year, 81 receptions, 1,000 yards receiving, 10 touchdowns. I know Ladd McConkey's there. I get it. But is Ladd McConkey really a true number one wide receiver in that wide receiver room?
He's a two lunch pail guy at the very least.
I have him a T. Higgins. I have him the T. Higgins route. A solid two. Just what you want to see at the end of the bar at 3 o'clock in the morning. A solid 2 waiting there for you. But give me Emeka Egbuka on the outside. Pair him with Justin Herbert. They already have the running game there. You have some great defensive pieces. I think they're wide receiver away. So if they make it to the Super Bowl, I would say watch out for him. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers. I hate talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers when it comes to playoffs, but they can't keep getting away with this. They keep sneaking in there. I don't know why. And I don't know how they're going to. There's a lot of questions right now in the quarterback room. Russell Wilson's up for contract. Justin Fields is up for contract. I think right now I'm calling Russell Wilson to have a bridging of the parties in Vegas with Pete Carroll now heading the ship there for the Raiders. I'm very interested to see what they do to address the quarterback situation. But if they address that later on in the draft, maybe, or go after a Sam Darnold, or hey, Kirk Cousins was always linked to Pittsburgh for a long time. Maybe they go out there and go get brunch time Kirk, and he can be, I don't know, serviceable. Can't be any worse than what they already did. But I mean, you have a lot of contracts coming up. I know George Pickens is up for a contract after next year. They had a lot of money going to have to try to spend to keep a lot of their superstars there. But give me Luther Burden III from Missouri, the wide receiver here for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, on the season, 61 receptions, 670 plus yards, 6 touchdowns. I think that would be a fantastic get for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So really want to keep an eye out there. Minnesota Vikings are kind of in a similar situation. But it's on the defensive side of the ball. I don't know how they're going to address their D-backs, whether it's their corners, their safeties. I know Harrison Smith's up for contract.
Yeah.
Joseph's up for a contract. Give me cornerback Siobhan Revel Jr. from East Carolina here. Yes, he only had 8 tackles, 2 pass breakups, 2 picks this season. But you have to remember, he hasn't played since week 3. He's been hurt. It's not his fault. But I mean, super dynamic player. I mean, 6'3", 193. I have fun passing on the outside to a 6'3" corner. That's all I'm going to say with the length that he has. I'm going to save the Commanders for last, just to edge you a little bit. Hint. Moving on to since we're already kind of on wide receiver talk, give me the Baltimore Ravens here. Wide receiver Trey Harris from Ole Miss. I mean, 6'2", 205. And me, you, Zoo, Luis, we already kind of had this conversation. What can Baltimore do at this point? You have Derrick Henry there. You have Lamar Jackson. You have Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely, a 2-headed monster at your tight ends. You have some really great pieces on defense, but where I really feel that they've been lacking is a true, number 1 wide receiver, somebody, a real threat on the outside. I know we've kind of already talked about Tyreek Hill potentially going to Baltimore now that he's been unhappy in South Beach in Miami. I think he could fit in really well in Baltimore. He might have a couple of new baby mamas in Baltimore running around afterwards, but hey, he's already too far in. He's already too far deep. But give me Trey Harris, 60 receptions on the year, over 1,000 yards receiving and 7 touchdowns. I mean, am I wrong? Am I totally off base with a wide receiver to Baltimore?
No. I mean, that's just kind of Baltimore's thing, right? It's like how Cleveland was taking quarterbacks until they could get one. This is Baltimore's thing. They just take a receiver until you get whoever that superstar is. You're not going to be able to continue to make a franchise career off of, Steve Smiths and Anquan Bolden's, these aging, savvy vet receivers. Eventually, you're going to have to hit on one of these star ones.
I mean, it's the law of averages, right?
Right.
It's just the way of the universe. It has to happen.
Yeah. I mean, they're trying to make themselves like a wide receiver factory, like how some other teams, their whole thing is tight ends, their whole thing is O-linemen, their whole thing is running backs. The Ravens want it to be receivers. Eventually, it's going to have to be.
Right. And I mean, a similar situation will stay. I mean, it's crazy that we're talking about all these AFC North teams, which is I despise having to talk about them. But I mean, it's kind of a similar situation going on in Cincinnati right now, right? I mean, you got Joe Burrow there. You have Jamar Chase. You have T. Higgins who's already came out stating that he's willing to take less money to stay in a situation like that. And if I'm T. Higgins, he's absolutely right. You're playing for arguably a quarterback that, they would never replace.
Right.
I mean, you have Lamar, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, there's only so many quarterbacks in the league that a team wouldn't move off of, and Joe Burrow is one of them.
So unless Mavericks ownership took over there.
Well, yeah. That's neither here nor there. But I think something that really lacked for that offense, and I think everyone's kind of in the same boat, is that rushing attack. Yes, you had Chase Brown there through 16 games, just under 1,000 yards rushing, 7 touchdowns rather. But I think it just lacked that pop. I really hope that Cincinnati Bengals not only address the running game, but also the offensive line, because there's always been year in and year out. I don't know what your boy is doing up there coaching that offensive line, but I have them going running back here. Maybe in the second round, get Omari and Hampton out of UNC. I mean, on the year, he made 6 foot, 220, catches the ball out of the backfield. I believe he had two or three receiving touchdowns this year, but on the ground, 1,600 yards rushing, 15 touchdowns overall. I mean, maybe that plays into the fact that he plays in the ACC, which is weak top to bottom. Maybe it doesn't, but I would you rather, if you're Cincinnati, would you rather go running back here or would you rather go tackle? Because where they're drafted, a lot of those top tackles are already gone.
Yeah, a lot of the top tackles, you're going to be reaching for somebody at that point. This running back class is super heavy. I mean, they could even stay in the state. Go with Ohio State's, what's his name, Trevion
Henderson?
Yeah, Trevion Henderson and everything. Just go for an Ohio connection.
Sell tickets.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think running back, if you're going to go anywhere on offense, it's going to have to be running back. Chase Brown's good and relatively healthy, but you can't rely on that with a running back year to year to year. Eventually, that pace is going to hit them, and you're going to be facing injuries and needing somebody to step up. They didn't have anybody after getting rid of Joe Mixon.
Right. I mean, it's either Chase Brown or 27 over the hill Zach Moss that you have in the backfield.
No. Could go down the Samaje P. Ryan route again.
Oh God, Cincinnati needs to get away from the retreads of running backs. I mean, hell, Dalvin Cook apparently is playing still. He was with the Cowboys.
Dalvin Cook.
Maybe get a resurgence there.
Get Todd Gurley out of retirement.
Why not? Why the French not?
If you're gonna go that route, get Steven Jackson. Get balls to the wall.
Ooh.
Adrian Peterson's probably got like at least 400 yards left in him.
He could just be your third round back.
Yeah.
Right. But like I said, this is impactful rookies that you could see in the Super Bowl. And it's not really the offensive linemen you ever think of as being impactful, even though you have some people coming out with having like a Protector of the Year award. You saw Mark Schlereth crying on air. Someone trying to give hope to the offensive linemen.
Oh my God.
But no, Commander, let's close out the show with some Commanders talk really fast. Because I know that is... I got one of the two people, 1A, because I know who signs my checks. 1A for the Commanders talk here in Reid Murphy. I like a shout for edge rusher Jack Sawyer out of Ohio State going to the Commanders. I mean, you potentially be losing who? Deron Payne. You could be losing...
Could lose Jonathan Allen. Could lose Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne. Yeah.
Right. I mean, those two players themselves haven't really... I mean, maybe it was with the old regime. Maybe that's why they haven't really produced as well as you'd hope. But it looks like you might be moving off of both of those. I mean, Jack Sawyer, I know size-wise, he's really not the prototypical edge rusher that you'd like to see. But, on the year, 59 total tackles, 9 sacks, 7 pass breakups, a pick, 3 forced fumbles. The production was wild. But I'd be very interested if the Commanders go with an edge rusher, and if Jack Sawyer's still sitting there, you want to grab him, because for me, I would go with his teammate Josh Simmons, offensive tackle for Ohio State, or go for who's the tackle from Oregon in the draft this year? Josh Connolly, Josh Connolly Jr. I have one of those tackles sitting there, so probably, for me, if I was in the Commanders' war room and I have either one of those tackles sitting there, I'm grabbing them. Immediately just grabbing them. But if the tackles by that point on the board are gone and Jack Sawyer's sitting there, I'm not mad at it.
No, I wouldn't be mad at it at all. I think we could get all the help needed on defense. And Jack Sawyer is also one of those character dudes that I think Adam Peters and Dan Quinn would love, like a great young leadership kind of player.
Washington's TJ Watt.
Yeah, exactly. And, he's not only great, as you said, like an edge rusher, but he's also, you see the stats, he's great when you can just you flex him a little bit into coverage, flex him.
Watch those bubble screens and just have him sitting in the flats.
A little bit of Micah Parsons to him, honestly, like a little Micah Parsons. And yeah, I think he would fit in really well, especially on a team that, Bobby Wagner is still really, really good, but he's getting up there. He's more towards late in London Fletcher that we're seeing, and, we're going to need a replacement there. Frankie Louvu needs a little bit of help to go, balls to the wall crazy. So, yeah, I would really love to have Jack Sawyer. And also, just a great name. Great football name, Jack Sawyer.
Right? You could see him easily coming out with one of those Dan Snyder-esque bomber jackets.
Oh, yeah.
Bringing that back into the relevancy.
He's going to be our varsity player. Yeah, he's our captain.
Oh, Jesus. What team was that? It was the Texans that did that, where they all got varsity jackets.
Yeah.
When Arian Foster and JJ Watt were all there. Stuff back in the day. Oh, Reid, but that is it for College Shame Day's production here for Super Week. So I do want to thank you all for joining us on today's episode of College Shame Day. Be sure to follow us on all social media, like, comment, share your thoughts, and don't forget to tune in. We're going to take a little bit of a hiatus, Reid. I'm giving my PTO request right here live on the air to kind of, he accepted the PTO request. Whether it was approved or not, that is still unbeknownst to me. He's following it up and throwing it away. Okay, perfect. But Reid, what can you tip off to the fans at home for things that are going to be coming out for the rest of Super Week?
Oh boy, it's a lot. We have the return of the Mama Murphy Chiefs show and her long-awaited top 5 people in NFL history that she's hated the most.
God. That one I want to hear.
We will have producer Angela and Travis Byram joining forces to tackle Oscar nominations in the Kendrick Lamar halftime show. Of course, we will have Ricks versus Gricks, where, you know, the lovable group of folks, including these two right here.
Chuckleheads.
These two chuckleheads that you're listening to are going to be, you know, picking and breaking down Chiefs Eagles. But most importantly, we will be playing a game of Top 5 Feud. Top 5 Feud will return. Of course, we said it was going to be on the first show. It's not going to be on the first show because the Lakers and the Mavericks had to do that shit. So we had to cover that. Now, Top 5 Feud will be the crescendo to Super Bowl week. And man, do I tell you, folks, you love College Shame Day. You love your host, Scott Ellia. Oh, we have a question. The kids love Scott. The kids were loving Scott on one of these questions. We surveyed 50 kids, ages 5 to 11, and including a question about Scott that you are going to love. So you need to check that out, folks. Check that out, the 323 Network on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts, the 323 with Reid Murphy stream. And of course, a cavalcade of guests are going to be making picks throughout that show with a little fireworks at the end of all these different guests from our show and the Stranded Panda Network. It's going to be really fun.
Well, I can't wait to hear this question. I don't know if I should be excited or scared.
A little bit of both. It's a little bit of both. The better part was what's not going to be on there was maybe their faces when I was asking the question.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, folks, but that is it for this week's installment of College Shame Day, because one thing that I'm not scared of is Super Week. I'm so excited to hear all the things that all the contributors have to talk about this week. So make sure to catch that wherever podcasts can be found. And I don't know. Live your life. Live your life for you. Be shameful. Don't worry about what the naysayers say. Alabama.
Yeah.
Just remember, folks, you didn't lose to Vandy.
That's right. Bunch of cricket wireless hillbillies.